I know that this is just going to go in one ear and out the other, but I'm going to give it my best shot. You gonna hate this, but this is from the National Archives. Most slaves hauled building materials and sawed lumber, but others performed skilled labor such as carpentry, stone cutting, and bricklaying. See, like, okay, most slaves. Do I believe it was most slaves? No, no, sir.
I understand your limited HISD education doesn't afford you the luxuries of learning things, so let me put you onto something. Yes, most slaves were in agriculture and architecture. Yeah, that's mainly what they did. And they were slaves to the NEGUS, niggas, which, of course, people couldn't say, well, let's just be honest, white people couldn't say right, so it became the insular we have today. The NEGUS, or royalty, because that name was reserved for royalty, had courts who practiced science and mathematics, which again predates Rome by about 1400 years, or 2500 BCE. It's a simple lookup, and plus, I already knew this because I'm a history buff. I studied it in college. It was one of my majors. Yeah. And it was African American studies and African studies and U.S. history. So, you sound stupid, but continue.
Do I believe that some slaves were able to do this and learn this? Absolutely, yeah. Do I think that this equates building America and building its infrastructure and cities and making technological advancements in medicine, science, education, mathematics, research? No.
Yeah, you truly are slow. Let me introduce you to a few people. How about this guy? You did say you owned a washateria. You can thank him. Or how about this gentleman here? Limited ISD education didn't tell you who originally started the search engine, you know, the same shit we use now that you downloaded this app on. Better yet, how about these three gentlemen here who are pioneers in mathematics that we still use today? Wow. Just for shits and giggles to hurt your male fragility, how about the great Archimedes who studied here? You might want to pause and read that real carefully. Please don't get me started on medicine, because we still do open heart surgeries based on this gentleman today. At least we not forget these few of hundreds of inventors, and this is some post and some pre-slavery, before slaves were allowed to have patents. Yeah. Tell me you like your history whitewashed without telling me you like your history whitewashed. But these inventors made your life today better because of their inventions then, which did change. And here comes part two of this moronic bullshit that he's completely fucking wrong about, but you know me, I'm going to go ahead and just hit him with facts. Continue.
So let's start from the beginning, and this is going to be very painful to hear. I doubt that some people will even make it to the end of this. During the transatlantic slave trade, these people were bought by tribesmen in their own country. So they sold their own people for money. These black tribesmen in Africa sold their own people for money, and they were already slaves in that country, in their own country. They were slaves.
I really hope you don't think you did something there. That's something we already know. Duh. But continue.
Jews brought these people during the transatlantic slave trade to North and South America. A lot of them.
You really are as dumb as you look. Here, read this. Pause. You went to HISD. Tell me you're an anti-Semite without telling me you're an anti-Semite. But continue, dumbass.
So actually, and 2% of white Americans ever even owned slaves. 40% of Jewish households owned slaves.
Wrong again. Pause to read. Oh my God, your numbers are wrong in black and white. Fuck. But continue, dumbass.
So whites did not bring slaves here, but they...
Damn it, man. It's like you just sit down to take a piss and slam your balls in the toilet seat repeatedly on purpose. But here's the actual facts. Now, show me which one of those nations screams Jewish. Because the Dutch made the most money off the slave trade. But again, continue. Now, as history being one of my majors, let's get this straight. There were Jews that lived in Portugal. Sephardic Jews. They were also Spanish. Now, they were not the major players in the slave trade. It was the actual Portuguese that were involved in the slave trade. They're the ones who started the transatlantic slave trade. But please continue to make an ass of yourself. Go ahead.
Did free them.
Clearly, you don't know your history. It wasn't Abe Lincoln's choice or something that he wanted to do to free the slaves. It was a wartime decision. Even the British offered slaves freedom if they fought for the British side. You might want to do a little reading on that. I understand you did go to HISD. And even the great Abe Lincoln said he would free the slaves. However, he did not want them having the same equality as white men, and white men would be the dominant race. It's a simple lookup if you study.
And again, I mean, slavery is not an exclusive black feature. I mean, every civilization in history has owned slaves. They've enslaved their own people. They've gone to war with their own people. Native Americans owned black slaves. Native Americans owned other Native Americans from other tribes as slaves. You know, they enslaved each other. They had wars with each other. But when it comes to a black and white thing, there's like this huge, you know, super sensitive issue that is really just juvenile, really. And that's actually what caused the whole colonization of Africa.
Wrong again. Pause to read, slowness.
Where these evil slave-raiding Berbers from Africa raided European countries and stole Europeans and sold them off as slaves. And so the European countries got together and basically said, maybe it's best that we just kind of babysit these countries since their own people are unable to act civilized. And it's true. I think we see a lot of it today. I mean, there's tons of crime today caused by blacks. I mean, there just is. The statistic is just there.
Let's just kill that fucking subtle, sarcastic, racist bullshit right now. Here, I'll let somebody else explain it to you.
Don't even have to shake the bushes anymore. They just come out freely. So there's no such thing as black-on-black crime. The concept of black-on-black crime was invented by white supremacists to sell this idea that black people are somehow inherently violent or more prone to be criminal. The thing is, with the exception of hate crimes, the majority of crimes have nothing to do with race. They have everything to do with socioeconomic proximity. In other words, if you're going to rob someone or sell drugs, you're going to do that in the neighborhood in which you live. So if you're black and you're committing crimes in a black neighborhood, chances are you're committing those crimes against someone who looks just like you. Just like if you're white and live in a white neighborhood, you're committing it against people who look like you. Yes, most crimes against white people are committed by other white people. In fact, white-collar crime is almost exclusively white people committing crimes against white people. Yet that's not why it's called white-collar, and no one's talking about the white-on-white crime epidemic. Oh, but what about all the crimes in the black neighborhoods? You mean the neighborhoods that have been redlined to be economically less stable than their white counterparts and are patrolled by police at 3 to 5 times the rate of white neighborhoods, and when you put police in a place and tell them look for crime, they find it? And that's where the 1352 argument they love so much comes in. Black people make up 13% of the population, yet commit 52% of the homicides. I've even seen them claim that they commit 90% of them. But that 52 number was based on data that listed arrests for violent crimes, not convictions. And even with convictions, you have to factor in wrongful convictions because innocent black people are 7 times more likely to be convicted of murder, 3.5 times more likely to be convicted of SA, and 12 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a drug charge. So white people, 77% of our population, while black people 13%. Meanwhile, inmates, white people make up 59%, while black people make up 38%. And when it comes to exonerations, white people are 39%, and black people make up 47% of those. And that's just the people who are able to afford the lengthy and potentially expensive process of proving that you're innocent after you have been convicted. So yeah, miss me with your white supremacist talking points, and the next time someone brings up black-on-black crime, you feel free to send them this video.
I mean, to not talk about it is irresponsible.
And to talk about it incorrectly is irresponsible.
And in any case, I would not live my whole life. Like, if you guys would set your energy aside from this and put your energy towards the future instead of dwelling on the past, but maybe thinking about the future, you would be able to accomplish so much, probably, maybe.
And if you would actually do a little research and stop listening to QAnon and Fox News, you would be able to not sound like a dumbass. Possibly. Maybe.